ratchet that makes some of the bolts pulling them loose a little easier. Now I'm removing with this tool. Do not install with any kind of power tool whatsoever. Do your installation by hand. Rob could hand me a shop towel from over there. I'll lay out all these bolts in one place. They're in good shape. They're very reusable as long as they're nice, soft, and pliable. So we're going to do the front first. But we do need to remove the spark plugs so the engine turns over easily. Get this thing out of here. Very short strokes only is all I get from this point. Rob, could you hand me my safety glasses, please?
Yeah.
Sometimes this stuff goes flying everywhere, and they're right on the shelf on the toolbox, sir. It's not a bad idea to wear them at all times. But since I need reading glasses occasionally, I have to stop and put those on. Okay, let's get this in here. No real contaminants flying out. That's a good thing. What we want to see, that means it was washed very well. And now using a 5/8 wrench, we'll remove the spark plug. Very, very long reach spark plug. Very unusual, but also we see the color is burning absolutely fuel injection clean. You don't get better coloring, and this comes along with a closed loop O2 sensor controlled ECU with the new Mavericks. Hope we see this across the board in the near future. Okay, should be able to get the valve cover out now. There we go. Now notice on this machine, though it's been all in the mud and very dirty, how we pressure cleaned it before we opened the engine to these precious, expensive parts. Now we can see the cam chain, the cam and its sprocket. The cam is pretty shielded to the eye from this view, but believe me, it's there. And at this point, we're going to remove the trigger for the ignition pickup. The reason we're removing this pickup is because we need to view the timing marks that are in this window down in the hole. So with a little bit of light, we'll be able to see our timing marks. Now, what we have to do is we have to remove this very large Allen bolt. 14 millimeters is the actual size of the Allen wrench you need to get in there. You need to get in there because that's the way you rotate the engine. I'm using a shortened snap-on tool because of the close proximity. The commanders are the same way, and look what we find. We find that the bolt is very loose. This is very unusual. This machine is getting its first service. It's got about 18 to 20 hours on it, and the customer admittedly has been running it very hard, and that's okay. It electronically will not come to full revs until it gets 10.5 to 11 hours. You simply remove this plug. This allows you to insert the same 14 millimeter into the end of the crankshaft, and it allows us to turn the engine over to put it in position for timing. So there are marks. There are marks on the wheel. You can see here and here. Now we want to rotate by viewing through the window though, but these marks may line up if it's the same setup as all the other V-twins that Rotax is currently making for BRP products. Hold on, let's get our light happy. And we should be coming up on our marks. There it is. Number 1 appears in the hole. Where we need to be now. Now let's check for the specs and the feeler gauge. Get our feeler gauges. We'll use the go, no-go method of valve adjustment. And let me get the correct lash or specification, we may call it, of exactly what our clearances should be. Many times, most often people believe the valves will be looser. Sometimes though they actually tighten up during break-in due to repeatedly being pulled up by the springs, and high revs will wear the valves up into their seats, especially at break-in. So it's a good idea to do a valve adjustment at 10 to 15 hours if you're going to keep the machine and you want peak performance for its lifetime. We're going to be off camera for a moment now while we find our feeler gauges. Using the feeler gauge and this very, very short screwdriver,
nice.
Hold the valve in place with your flat blade and break loose the jam nut, just slightly adjusting it inward since it is a little on the loose side. Now let's try the go, no-go method again. And if we can get a 6/1000 feeler gauge in, we should be very happy that we hit it right the first time. There we have it. 6/1000 gauge goes in. Now, while we have this 6/1000 gauge in the one, we're going to use a second gauge to check the other. Now this is mostly important on high wear engines that may have worn in the area of the rocker pivots and the rods that the rockers pivot on. So it could rock back and forth in theory. So we don't want to take that chance. Let's check the other one while the gauge is in. And these are, and as you see, our 6/1000 gauge is on the money. Exhaust valves, front cylinder are done. We have the outermost was a little loose. We're way within spec, and like I said, I do like running them towards the outer limit, especially somebody who likes lots of power and wants the most out of his machine.